All right. Protests, rioting and looting, and is this the end of the United States of America? So we've gotten through the 2 months of this coronavirus pandemic. We had a total lockdown, stay-at-home orders, and then the reopening and restarting of, they shut down the U.S. economy. So to restart it, everyone was initiating phases. Phase 1, we got to phase 2 here, and basically people were assessing the damage, economic damage. Now, like I stated before, this country is at war. It's an economic war, and it is a global war. It's not just the U.S. The whole world is engulfed in this war, okay? It is not like the old movies where there's, planes, tanks, invasions, soldiers, armies. No, that isn't it. It is like an economic war which is going to collapse ourselves upon, like implode, all right, our nation. And the biggest weaknesses are being exposed here recently. So we got through this. A lot of people were hurt financially through this coronavirus thing. And then all of a sudden, there's an incident where a police officer kneels on a man's neck, causing his death, which ignites rioting, which I could see that happening in, I think, Minneapolis, wherever it is up there. And it got bad. They burnt down a police precinct and this and that. But it's reminiscent of the Rodney King affair and the LA riots that ensued. What's different about this, and what is suspicious about it, and it appears there's another force or something else is going on, because protests broke out in just about every major city throughout the United States. About inequality, racial prejudice, and the police. Okay, Black Lives Matter, this and that, these different organizations. But like all of a sudden, throughout the whole United States, every major city, in my state, Greensboro, Raleigh, and Charlotte, all our major cities are under a curfew as we, indefinitely. So just when we thought we were getting out of this, and people were looking at how financially they've been ruined, now this outbreak of rioting, looting, general lawlessness has already, the downtown areas or different areas affected by it, stores are closed, where even during the stay-at-home order, Walmarts did not close. Several Walmarts have closed. CVS stores have closed. On the news every day, there's another business, it's usually restaurants and things like that just make an announcement. We've been in business downtown so many years, but we're done. We're closing our doors for good. Okay, and with the looting and rioting, there's a lot of people who have lost everything. Okay, be it a store, even they attacked the Dollar Generals, and CVS has closed its stores. And not counting the small places that are just, privately owned by a business, something downtown that's destroyed, smashed. I don't quite get it. First thing is, I don't understand where, if you're going against racial inequality and law enforcement, how destroying a liquor store or a Dollar General or a drugstore helps, correct this. I can see, excuse me, I can see burning down a police precinct. All right, they got pissed, they burned down a police precinct, maybe took the whole block with it. I can understand that. But just to randomly loot and destroy, the city property, private property, and attack people, or they were blocking the freeway in California and just smashing the windshields out of people's cars, trying to drag them out of their cars. Who are the people driving on the highway? How are they connected to any of this? You know, you're just randomly destroying our society, which now has invoked a lot of real bizarre stuff. President Trump had to use powers that come under the 1807 insurrection laws. Okay, I guess they've mobilized both, not just the National Guards, the United States military has been brought in. Okay, this is serious. I don't think this country has faced anything like this since the attacks, the 9/11, okay, where they shut down all air traffic and that. And even then, we were looking for an airborne threat. Okay, we did not have rioting in Washington, D.C. We did not have a total breakdown of our society, destruction on a scale that, yes, it was horrific when they took down the Twin Towers, but I don't know if with this looting and stuff, if this damage is not worse than that itself. And the strange thing is, it's being inflicted upon us by our own citizens. So you see, the technique is working. They're making us cave in on ourselves, tear ourselves apart. The enemy from within. Okay? This is going to be the destruction of our country. Now, with all these gun sales and that, why, thank God, nobody has started shooting one another at any of these protests. But we're at a tipping point. If it comes to that, if people start shooting one group against the other, then you're talking we're going to break right out into a total breakdown of our society, basically a civil type of war of some sort, or just anarchy in general where there are no sides, everyone just starts murdering each other. This is what is needed. The destruction of the United States to enact a global government, because the one thing standing in the way of total global domination of the world is the fact the United States of America exists with its laws, rights, and all this other stuff. This country's got to go because it is standing in the way of a total global government and takeover of the world. And they got a pretty good foothold on doing it right at the moment. Okay. Now, the only good thing is, even though there is an indefinite curfew in Greensboro and most of the cities here, from like 7 o'clock till 6 in the morning. Now, when this coronavirus started, there was a lot of people panicking that the National Guard was going to come, declare martial law and all this other stuff. But they didn't. Okay, I think that first part was an experiment to see how many people they can get to comply, how many people they can get to wear a mask that will obey, and how many people they could get to hunker down, stay at home being frightened. And actually, over time, a few months in that, a lot of people had the attitude, let them do this, it'll blow over. Then it went to 2 months. And it's dragging on. And they started getting to where, this is a load of crap. I ain't going to deal with it no more. I'm just going to go about my business. And they put the propaganda on the radio. It is not safe. Stay at home. You were bombarded with this. And yet, with all these restrictions, the only thing they had here locally is they shut down 2 illegal bars that were operating during this. That was the big crime thing. And every now and then you'd hear about some sort of act of violence or some kind of incident. Very few. The minute they go into phase 2, the local news has 5 incidents of shootings, killings, stabbings, all this other stuff. It's kind of like time. The minute they released it, now they start reporting about all this. Was the violence and incidents going on back here, but they weren't reporting it. And then now it's all being reported because cause and effect. And like I said, an incident, which they do have. I'm not saying that all law enforcement is bad, okay? But the cop really screwed up where he knelt on a guy's neck until, I guess it did kill him, okay? And was on being taped doing it, so that really didn't help. And I can see why people were outraged over this, all right? But I cannot see why they would attack Washington, D.C. to the point where our president's in a bunker looking up insurrection laws and mobilizing the military and everything. And now there's curfews. Now we're in a worse spot than when we started with this. Okay? Now this second wave or second assault on our country excuse me, has brought about the military, curfews, and even more drastic restrictions than what this all started with the stay-at-home orders, quarantine. It has nothing to do with the virus. And another thing, like a lot of things you see, all these people out there, everybody that's social distancing, these mobs and that, what about that? It's like everyone's all panicking, standing away from you, wearing a mask and frightened. And now they're all out there like a bunch of wild animals together in a bunch. So this all went out the window. And now they're saying that this is going to create even more of a pandemic and gives them grounds to lock us down again. So the country's not in good shape. The only good news, as these protests go on in some areas, it's a little bit quieter. The police are working hard to keep things peaceful and law and order and to eliminate this. Some people are even actually helping by preventing the looters from destroying businesses and places. Unfortunately, not all of them. Now, the thing that gets me, and the thing we have to question, is I believe there's another group or hidden agenda or somebody. There's something else going on behind the scenes. Okay, I can see having riots in a locale or some of the major cities of protests and that. And there's nothing wrong with people protesting this incident. Nothing whatsoever. Okay? But the protests start off as protests, and everything's fine. A group of people gather and voice their opinion that they're unhappy. Okay? That's constitutional right. But then all of a sudden, it turns into this violent looting and burning and all this other stuff. And it's the same scenario. The police said, well, the people showed up, in the beginning of the evening and this, and then when nightfall came, or after so many hours, it turned violent. And it turns violent in all these different places, all at once, all throughout the country, to where they went berserk in Washington, D.C., okay, setting fires and stuff and that, to where the president was in a bunker. Just like George Bush was in a bunker somewhere out after 9/11. This is how serious this is, okay? How are we going to come out of this? I don't know. Thank God that people are trying to kind of calm this down and get the violence out of this, okay, and the damage. But unfortunately, I believe our economy's been so damaged between the shutdown of the coronavirus, now this new wave of destroying every major city. It's kind of like, now you're talking real war, where you bomb cities, destroy the infrastructure, burn down buildings, and the damage just is adding up. Our economy is not going to recover from this. And another thing, okay, talking about the U.S. and the serious crisis here, there are demonstrations, riots, for one thing or another, throughout the whole world. Okay, Hong Kong. I've seen videos of demonstrations in that in Austria, England. Well, France and a lot of these countries, they have always had demonstrations, protests, and that. This is nothing new for them, okay? But now, it's global. It's all over. It's like a total breakdown of civilization. Not so much one country, but civilization as we know it is collapsing upon itself. And I believe there are forces, hidden forces. Don't you know? And you're going to, well, who? What? I don't know. But it's too much of a coincidence that it's all coordinated and happening at once. And I believe a lot of these violent rioters and stuff are provoked and brought in. They say a lot of this, these people ain't even from the area that start all this violence. So there are forces at work trying to undermine our nation. Okay? And I truly believe that. The only thing is, it's sitting and thinking about it, I wonder, can we ever recover from this? That's the thing that frightens me the most. And another thing is, if I go to a drugstore or a convenience store or to Walmart, am I taking my life in my hands? You know, if I'm in there buying some groceries and that's when they decide to loot and destroy the store, you know, what am I going to do against a mob of 50, 60 people? You know, truthfully, ask yourself that. You know, I don't care how much of a badass you think you are. When there's a huge mob coming, there really ain't much you can do. Okay? You know, and now that is frightening, to where this violent protest or vandalism or whatever can outbreak while you're just out minding your own business. All right? So I guess we'll have to wait and see how it turns out, but it doesn't look good. I haven't made a video in a few days because I myself been tied up with stuff and haven't been feeling good the past few days. But and I wanted to wait and see how this goes. You know, now we're stuck with curfews. I believe they're kind of curtailing it. There was some damage, but now they're getting to where it's not as bad as it was over the weekend. But then again, who knows if we're not going to have another flare-up continuing on during the week. So I'll try to see what happens and make another commentary when I get the chance.